So good afternoon, Martin, and thanks so much for jumping on to our Business Owner Spotlight. Do you want to just introduce yourself and tell everybody how you got started in business?
Hi, thanks for having me on. I'm delighted to be here this sunny afternoon. My name is Martin Gilchrist, and I am the practice manager at Gilchrist & Co. Chartered Accountants. How I got started was that Gilchrist & Co. is headed up. The principal of Gilchrist & Co. is actually my wife, Michelle Gilchrist. Michelle Gilchrist, FCA. Michelle is a senior member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. And ever since we met, it has been something that we've always wanted to do. Almost since the first night, almost since our first date, we were talking about, because we were both accountants, young accountants back then, ambitious accountants. We always were thinking about we'd love to start our own business. And over the years, through ways and means, we have found ourselves now in a situation where we have a very successful chartered accountancy practice focused on looking after professional people in independent practice. So that's how I got to be where I am.
Fantastic. So is that, when you're saying professional people, is that your kind of niche? Is that your ideal customer who you would look after then?
Absolutely. There's a reason that we work with those people. We understand them. So we both come from a professional background, professional training, but they're like fee charging professionals. So Gilchrist & Co. isn't PwC. It's not KPMG. We don't have factory owners and hotel owners and manufacturers and all that type of stuff. We only have a client base of 300. So we have 300 clients at any one time. And they tend to be professionals such as barristers or QCs, doctors, dentists, pharmacists, web producers, people in the music industry or the creative industries. And some of our clients you would see on TV, presenters and the like. So the common theme between them all is that they are individuals working by themselves. Some of them now have staff. The businesses grow and businesses change. So our largest client would maybe have, well, now they have about 60 staff and they're actually growing very quickly. But generally speaking, when we go out and talk to the world and tell them what we do, it's individuals working by themselves, whether that's working at the Bar Library in Belfast or Clockwise co-working space on High Street in town, or working from a back bedroom or wherever that may be. They would tend to be our core client base.
Sure. Sounds interesting. And tell me, did COVID, what sort of impact did it have on Gilchrist & Co? And is there anything that you're still doing off the back of the changes you had to make?
Yeah, we used to have an office down in Belfast, up near the Knockjewel Carriageway up in East Belfast, Bally Snackymore, as they call it, where all the coffees and restaurants are. And obviously our staff stopped coming in because you couldn't come in, and it has worked very well. We still have the premises, but we don't have the staff in as much as we used to, as a matter of fact, hardly at all. And some of our new staff and interns and stuff like that have never been in the office. We meet them in other places. So that, I suppose, that's one of the big changes, that no need for an office, and we've found out that it's not really required anymore. Our clients don't need to come and meet us in an office. You know, they much prefer that we meet them out over lunch. Our associates and our business friends. I was invited out for lunch with a couple of friends from business last week, and we went down into town. It was much nicer sitting and having that conversation over lunch than it is in some stuffy old office. And the technology that we have now means that files can be shared, and online cloud computing and Zoom and the likes means that you can still have, to an extent, the face-to-face conversations without actually having to be sitting in the same room. Although now COVID's over, we're finding that we're going back to face-to-face meetings, because there's just something nice about a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and a handshake and seeing something personally. I suppose from a more serious point of view, the real hit with COVID was everything changed, and the amount of information that was coming at us as accountants, coming at everybody. So the furlough scheme and the SEIS and all the different fundings and support that was brought into place for businesses that were being shut down overnight. That was a learning curve for everybody. Even the funding bodies that were putting out didn't really know what they were doing. The Belfast City Council didn't know what they were doing. taxman didn't know what they were doing, and not only did they not know what they were doing, but there was nobody there. There was nobody in the offices
Yeah,
to
of
do the
course, yeah.
stuff that needed to be done. So it was chaos for a while, which meant that our working hours went from, accountants work long hours anyway. It's just the nature of the beast. But it just seemed like we had no free time for a bit. So it wasn't that we didn't have work; we had far, far more work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we just weren't getting paid for it because it didn't feel right to charge clients normal fees for doing things like furlough claims and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, it made for an interesting time.
Yeah, interesting is probably the word for it. But so it's interesting that hybrid. You're finding you're going back to a little bit of face to face, but we're still going to keep some remote working in place. Then.
Yeah, I don't think we need an office anymore, a
Yeah.
permanent office. I think there's better use for that space and forcing clients and staff to fight through rush hour traffic to sit at a desk doing work that they could be doing from somewhere more comfortable without losing 2 hours in traveling time or more every day.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll necessarily be going back to that. And the hybrid thing does work very well. However, there are elements of what we do that does require you to be sitting across. Sometimes there's some enjoyable conversations. Sometimes there's some serious conversations, both with clients and with staff, that you do need to be face to face. And for that, we would use the ever expanding resource of co-working and hot desking space that we're finding across Belfast. And there's loads of places you can do that, from Titanic Suites to Ormobaf galleries to loft space and Clockwise. And there's new premises opening now in Customs House Square. I think they're going to be quite limited, but you can book the meeting rooms. You can pop in and use the meeting rooms. So there's Scottish Provident Building as well as another, and that's just. But that's before you go over to City East and all the other resources outside town. So yeah, I think that's the future.
Yeah,
as I say.
Yeah, you can find that working environment just as and when you need it. Then essentially.
Yeah.
So tell me what's been your biggest learning since you've been a business owner then?
I think the biggest learning I've had is you have to find your own way, and by that what I mean is that your business shouldn't be what you think other people should be. So we all have a perception of what other people think of us and think of what we do and think of what our business is. And you don't have to live to that perception. What you should do in business is work out who you are and what you want, and then grow the business around that. That's the route to happiness in business.
Yeah.
So in our case, we didn't want to be the next PwC or McGrady's or one of the bigger business or Goldblatt McGuigan's or whatever that may be, because that's a different environment from what we have at Gilchrist & Co. We wanted a family practice, we wanted a lifestyle practice, and that may not be for every other accountant, but it certainly works for us. It means that we're happy in our work. So it doesn't matter that we work long hours because we enjoy what we do. Yeah. And it also gives us the opportunity to be not selective about our clients, but our clients can be selective about us. The people who work with us because they want to for a reason. It's not because of some big fancy advertising campaign or because we provide some innovative service that they can't get anywhere else. You go to 101 different accountants and get the service that we get for in and around the same price. I suppose some would be dear and some would be cheaper, but we're about the right price for what we do. Why do people come to us? Because we're the right fit for them. Yeah. So if you've got a business that's based upon who you are and what you want out of life, and you can provide what your clients need and what they want from the service that you provide, what you find yourself in is a lovely sweet spot where you're getting to do the work you enjoy and you're getting paid for it, and people are satisfied and happy with what you're doing. So I suppose that was the biggest lesson I learned.
Yeah.
Find your space.
Totally agree. It's getting that alignment with your business serves you what you want to get out of life, essentially, instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
And then tell me what's been the biggest issue you've had to overcome?
There's issues every day. Isn't there? I know I'm telling this lovely idyll about, oh yes, we live in this very happy world, Gilchrist & Co. It's all wonderful, but well, there's not issues every day, but when you're in business, you're going to come up against problems and difficulties and people. One of the funny things about business is the best thing about business is people, and the worst thing about business is people.
Yeah.
And the analogy I use is that when you go into a classroom, any classroom, so we've all been to school, and some of us may have been university or college, and we've all been in different classes with different people. And you walk into that classroom, and if you're there for any length of time, you're going to find 2 or 3 people that you just like, that are your friends. And there's going to be about 20 or so people that you're not really, they're all right. You can say hello to them and the rest, but you don't really spend any time. And there's going to be 2 or 3 people that just rub you up the wrong way. You just don't get on at all. What I find is that I try to spend time going out into the world and identifying those people that I really like, from whatever group of people that is,
Yeah.
go out into the larger world. So whether it's the golf club, or whether it's Ormo Buffs Gallery, or whether it's the Institute of Chartered Accountants, or wherever that is, where there's a group of people that you're going to be seeing in a regular amount of time, identify the people that you're going to, maybe not as cynically as that, but try to spend time with them. People that motivate, inspire, engage, encourage, teach, support, all that good stuff, and spend your time around them. And what you'll find is it makes that business journey a lot easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. And tell me, so just when you're talking about people who inspire you and motivate, who would you say has been the best coach you've ever had, and why?
I could make something up that would sound all very sensible, and yes, that's true, Martin. That's a very sensible coach. You've done a very sensible thing there. And there have been business coaches that I've had that, well, when I say coach, I've had people that have been mentors and coaches in the past that have been very worthwhile. And one guy I would like to, I suppose I always bring up is there was, early in my career, when I went into self-employment, the first thing I did was I focused on looking after legal practices.
Okay.
So I did law at university. I worked for an organization called ASDON, where I was responsible for putting in case management and accounting software. And then I set up my own business, installing and training and assisting people with solicitors with their account systems, and basically firefighting where things had gone wrong. And so basically I would be coming in as a consultant and sorting out issues. And there was one solicitor I came along, and he owned a family practice. The guy was called Pascal O'Hare. He's a famous solicitor in Belfast.
Yeah.
Passed away now, unfortunately. But Pascal, when I came across first, was, he might have been in his 80s. So he was past retirement age, but he still came into the office because he enjoyed it. And he had his own circle of clients that wanted to work with him and stuff. And he would come in and he would speak with me. So I was a nobody. He didn't have to spend any time at all. But he came in and he would tell me stories about being in the US Army and how he became a solicitor and what it was like at the start and how he grew his practice, being very successful. And it wasn't until I went out we went out for dinner a couple of times in the practice. And when you went out and you'd be out at these places, and there'd be judges, and there'd be senior QCs, and there'd be really senior members of, government and law and all the rest. And everyone deferred to this guy. He was respected everywhere by anybody that was anybody in the legal environment respected this guy. And I was going, why would this guy even spend his time talking to me? But he was generous, and he was a good guy. And one of the things he said to me, Martin, see, when you go into practice, and he knew even then, but I was a freelancer then, I didn't have a practice, but he said, Martin, you'll be running a practice one of these days. And he says, when you go into practice, just be aware. See the people you start in business with, big or small, and they'll probably be small. Hang on to them and hang in there with them, because your practice will grow with them and they will grow well with you. That's a good client base. If you have a client base that grows with you and grows old with you, you'll have the same clients at the end as you had at the start. Not all of them, but the clients that stick with you will be the ones that keep your firm going through thick and thin. And we have been in business. Gilchrist has been in practice now for 16 years, thereabouts. And we still have some of our clients, many of our clients that we got right at the very start. And I think that's very true. And if 30 years from now or 20 years from now, when I retire, hand the practice over, well, maybe it'll be sooner than that, before my son takes over. He's joined us in the practice already. If we still have those clients with us, or members of their families.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fantastic legacy. So
And I was going to say, it's testament to the job that you do if they're prepared to stick with you as well, isn't it?
it is and it isn't. The thing about accountancy is it's very hard to change. Well, it's not very hard to change an account. And you can go, there's, as I say, there's 101 accountants that would do what we do, but there's a rigmarole involved in all of that. So you sort of have to tell your accountant that you're leaving, and there has to be a reason for leaving, you know.
Yeah.
So generally what we find is that if somebody leaves, they've got too big. They need services that we don't provide, R&D tax credits or capital allowances on commercial properties or tax planning or wealth management planning. We don't do those things. We're focused on the 4 services the small businesses need: self-assessment tax returns, corporation tax returns, VAT and payroll. That's all we do. But we do those things really, really, really well. You're not going to get a better service in those things than what we do, because that's our pure focus. So people might get too big, or they retire, you know, or they just run out of steam for whatever reason, and they decide to go and do something else, or whatever the case may be. So we generally tend not to lose clients on bad terms. But
yeah,
if a client is leaving just to go to another accountant, and there's not a reason like that, you know, generally that something's gone wrong. So people don't tend to move accounts for nothing. So there is a degree of, the very short answer to your question is, there is a degree of stickiness there, so that's not the case that would be unusual to having a client for a very long time.
And tell me, just when you mentioned maybe your son's just joined the business, and you know, a few years down the line, what's the future look like for Gilchrist & Co, and what do you see as the main challenges moving ahead?
Okay, we are incredibly happy with the practice that we have now. So at any one time, we have about 300 clients. The practice is ambitious. The practice will still grow, you know, and the way our practice grows is simply by our clients growing. So if you imagine a early stage new business comes in, and that guy or lady just needs a self-assessment tax return, but after a year, they may have a requirement to do VAT returns. That's an additional service. And then they may decide to register as a limited company. That's an additional service. And then they may take on staff, and there's payroll as well. So that one client could start off at maybe £300 a year, and they could ultimately end up being worth £2,500 a year to us. The client's still happy because they're getting a really good service at a competitive fee. You know, £2,500 for a limited company and payroll and VAT and self-assessment tax returns is actually very competitive. I wouldn't say it's cheap. It's still a lot of money, but it's highly competitive, but it's a fantastic service as well. So that practice for us works very well. You know, there's nothing else that Michelle and I need from the practice to grow. However, our son is much younger, and he's coming in at a different place in the practice, and his ambitions are somewhat different. So he would like to maybe expand into, maybe take an element of the practice over to England, have a London office or a Manchester office, and use the benefits of our highly educated workforce here in Northern Ireland. So we have 2-3 really good universities pumping out really well qualified young people who don't necessarily want to have to go abroad anymore. We would love to be able to, well, his ambition would be to employ them here, but obviously the rates, you know, the cost of living here is an awful lot less than it would be in London, so therefore would be very competitively priced. So there may be something in that, and the use of technology and all that type of stuff. You know, practice changes all the time, and the way we do our work changes all the time. So I imagine there'll be considerable change, but at the same time, with that ethos of relationships, personal relationships with clients over a long period of time, I would certainly like that to continue. Sounds
good. And just before we finish up then, Martin, so if you were to go back in time, what piece of advice would you give an 18-year-old Martin?
Oh dear. Yeah, well, again, is it the honest advice?
Typically.
There's lots of advice I would need when I was 18. I think a general piece of advice, 18, 25, 35, or even now, it's that no man or woman is an island. You know, this shirt that I'm wearing on my back, I didn't make it by myself. The microphone, the computer, the telephone line, You know, everything about our existence comes from some, even the thoughts and the language we speak comes from somewhere else. So you're not this isolated super being that can do everything by yourself. And you have to acknowledge that you're not an island. You have to engage with people. Now, the people that you engage with are programming you. You know, it's through those conversations, it's through that inspiration, it's through that learning and teaching, and people who, you know, you don't get on with, teach you some. People you do get on with, teach you some. Be selective about the people that you have around you, because you really want to have the people around you that will help you get to where it is that you want to get to. Like, not everybody will be like me and satisfied with a small regional accountancy practice. Some people will want to be the next Elon Musk, you know, building rocket ships to Mars or whatever. But you need to find the people that will assist you on that journey, because you're not going to get too far by yourself.
No.
That would be my primary piece of advice.
Yeah, like, and it's having the right people around you to help you out where you need help, where maybe your weaknesses are, to supplement that.
Absolutely. You'd almost said, I think I did that on purpose. I didn't, but you know, it's a good piece of advice, and it stands. It always stands.
Sounds good. Well, look, Martin, thanks so much for coming on. Really enjoyed our chat. So much good information in there. I think everybody's really going to enjoy it. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time.
No, I enjoyed it. Thanks for asking me on.